Thank you so much for staying tuned. You're watching the Virtuous Woman Show with me, Sheila Juma, and I am on set with Mrs. Zipporah. Miss or Mrs.? Miss Zipporah. And we are talking about mentally healthy relationships. And before the break, we talked about the role of communication and especially self-awareness when it comes to mental health, because you cannot tackle an issue that you do not know exists. And we are back with this conversation. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'd like for you to give us an example of a conflict, maybe generally, and how that has been resolved.
So when I think of conflicts, I think one of the conflicts that I can think of at the top of my head that relationships and even friendships are going through is the conflict of finances, especially with this economy where the money, you're working, but the money is not coming in. And when I look at it from an aspect of a relationship aspect, that's really a key thing. And you will find that one probably is a spender, is a spendthrift. Retail therapy is good for them. Then the other one is in terms of, no, we need to save. Of course, there's the conflict is going to ensue from that conversation. So one of the things that when it comes to conflict is addressing the conflict and talking about the conflict and not attacking the person. That is very key. And of course, the first thing is to accept there's a conflict. Most of us want just to brush it off and imagine there is no conflict. Reality is the conflict is there. So admit and accept the conflict is there, and then specify on the exact conflict that is there. And then, of course, how the issue is affecting the relationship. When we go back to issues of finances, spending and having a saver, one that wants to save, talk about why they think spending is important. Talk about the feelings that come around with the conflict. Like, I feel nice when I spend, or I feel nice and comfortable and safe and secure when I know that we have saved for the future or for the next few months. And then come up with solutions on what you think will work best for you. So is it trying to work on a budget, saying that probably we'll have now a budget for the spending so that this other person does not feel like their freedom has been curtailed, their retail therapy has been taken away, or they get fulfillment when they do the shopping. So that's important to note that. Then the other aspect is, of course, when now you start implementing the solution, go back to it and review. In terms of, yes, this is the conflict that we were having. It was an issue of money. You want to spend, I want to save. Money is scarce. We decided that we'll have a budget, and then go back to it. How is it coming along? And then also in the process, give feedback in a loving way, in an empathetic way, so that this person also knows that, we are working on this budget, these are the changes that we have made, but then this is also the progress that we have made. And then, of course, in the event probably of finances, you do not know how to spend your money, you do not know what to do with it. I always say seek professional help. There's always help when you are intentional in seeking the help. And like I had earlier said, remember the issue is the conflict, the issue is not the person. So do not attack the person. Work together. It's not a matter of who is right and who won the debate or who won the conversation. It's a matter of putting or keeping the relationship still intact.
Love that. Prioritizing each other and your relationship over the conflict. All right, that's good. Let's move on to boundaries. I think this is one of, apart from communication, one of the things that are highly controversial, or maybe people don't know how to handle boundaries or how to even bring the topic of boundaries. And as you're talking, I would like for you to touch, especially when it comes to in-laws, because these are people that are now in your life, but you haven't, it's not like you chose them, you chose the spouse, but you didn't really, for friendships you choose your friends, you can choose your husband, but these are people that are there, you just have to deal with them. So you can talk about, husband relationship or friendships, but especially with in-laws. How do you put boundaries and discuss boundaries, and how do you handle them?
I think in-laws are individuals, it's a group that will stay with you.
Yeah.
That you never choose them. So again, when it comes to issues of boundaries and spousal boundaries, one of the things is to be able to communicate those boundaries in terms of how do you communicate to me? I do not appreciate how you communicate with me. If you're communicating with me and you are emotional, let's take a breather and then meet when our emotions have now, we can have a logical conversation. We can talk without attacking each other. When it comes to the issues of in-laws, I believe it starts when you are dating. These are things that need to be communicated. Like if it's an in-law, how often should they visit us? How many days should they stay? And it's when it comes to in-laws, one of the things that I have seen is that it has to be, you and your spouse need to be a team.
True.
So that it doesn't seem that when I'm talking to my family, my partner is the demon and the villain in the story.
Wow.
It has to be like we have decided this. Because remember, you've come from families, but now you're building your families. If you're looking at it from a Christian perspective, Adam left and Adam became one with his wife. So that's how it should be. Have those conversations. When it comes to boundaries of money, because this is also something else that really brings a lot of conflict. Talk about this together with your spouse, that will be supporting maybe our family with money, let's say 10K a month. Either you decide you'll be sending the family or I'll be sending the family, so that they also know. But then also when it comes also to issues of boundary, I know we've been told that, of course, because we come from families, we have to take care of them. There's the issue of black tax that comes from families. Your parents will now blackmail you and tell you, if you don't take care of us, we will curse you, such kind of things. You also have to be deliberate in putting yourself first. Because remember, you are building a new relationship, you're building a new family. So intentionality is key, so that you don't suffocate your marriage when you're trying to please the in-laws.
Wow. Is it possible to speak boundaries without speaking? Like, is there a way you can act that will kind of bring the message out?
Like being passive aggressive. In terms of your in-law comes.
And is that proper?
In terms of your in-law comes, and when they come, you decide you go to the bedroom, day 1, day 2, and then you're like, they're not getting the conversation. That's being passive aggressive.
Even with your spouse.
Even with your spouse, it happens a lot, but then it's not sustainable. It can only work, it's temporary, but then of course you have to communicate. Boundaries have to be communicated so that people also understand that when I speak about my boundary and you go against my boundaries, there are consequences. So if you do not communicate that, people will always just walk on over you and imagine that you are okay with it. It's the same way an in-law will come to my space and stay there for 1 year, and we never had the conversation, but then they'll be like, you're married to our brother, you're married to our relative, and you still want your space. Probably it's a 1-bedroom house, you have kids, then an in-law is coming, and they even don't tell you how long they will be there. They'll be like, I'm just visiting, siku chache. The siku chache turns into months. The months turn into years. But you see, now you have to learn to vocalize your boundaries and say, I do not respect this. And if you continue doing this, this is what will happen.
I think that was important to note, because especially because our audience is women, we tend to be very passive aggressive. What's wrong?
Nothing. The nothing, the words, but the face is like nothing. Get the message without
me having to speak.
And if I may say something, sometimes it's because most of us were not vocal when we were growing up, or even in our relationships, we were not vocal. If you check on most people who are passive aggressive, their voices were not heard when they were younger. So what they would do is become passive aggressive so that they become noticed. But it's also high time. And then, of course, depending also on the culture, there are cultures that women are only allowed to be seen and not to be heard. That also affects us and how we set our boundaries.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I think we have time to handle just one more question. And for me, it would be differences in opinions. How do you handle differences in opinions, especially when it comes to marriage? I want one thing, and this is my opinion on this, and you have your own opinion. How do I deal with
that? The differences in opinions will always
be there.
Yes. I mean, because we are getting to know ourselves every other day. We are allowed to change our opinions. I always tell people that you're not a tree, or you're not a curtain just to stay in the house and just be moved when someone is moving you. You're allowed to change your opinions. One of the things we also need to realize is that we come from different backgrounds, and there's a way that we see our opinions, and we see we have different ideologies. One of the things to do is respect that you have your own idea, I have my own idea, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with you having a different idea from me. But then how you are able to navigate through it is what makes the difference. Talking about, tell me, why do you have this idea? Why do you have this ideology? Where is it coming from? Let's have a discussion on that. Then the other thing is to be able to respect the ideology that your spouse has, and then now start having conversation. How is this idea probably affecting our marriage? How is it affecting our relationship? And then how do we move on from this? And then now just deciding that, of course I'll respect your opinion, you'll respect mine, and it is okay. And there are things that you can move past that. But then now when it now becomes a major issue that now needs to be discussed, then you go back to the drawing board and discuss it. But then it goes back to respect and respecting my opinions. And for example, you will find there are individuals where their differences of opinions comes in actually makeup. Basic things, like, because I know of people that were raised and their mom and their siblings were not allowed to wear makeup. But I come from a family where my mom has allowed me. I've seen her applying makeup. She's bought me makeup kit, and it is okay. So those are the things. Does it affect you? Does it affect your values? Then we can have, we agree to disagree, and it is okay, as long as it's not on fundamental things that now will affect you. And that's why we need to have these conversations before even getting married, when you're dating, so that you know that, of course, this is what I can do. Like, I've seen something trending on social media, when one person was talking about the fact that they had to separate with a girlfriend, not because they didn't love each other or they had other issues, but it was on issues of naming their children. So that's a major thing it's a major thing to the guy. It's not a major thing to the girl. But then now they couldn't have this conversation. So I respect you. I respect your opinion. I also have my opinions, but this is where now we cannot agree to disagree.
I agree, because there are those things you can live with, but there are things that you have to figure out what are those things for me and discuss them before you get into the relationship. That's all the time we had. My goodness, can you believe it? Thank you so much for coming. We're really grateful. I learn something new every time we have these shows, and I'm sure our audience does. So I'm really, really grateful. That's all the time we had. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.